So I'm out. So stand by for special programming.
All right, good evening, everyone. My name is Damian Davis, and welcome to another show in our series on philosophical orientations. And joining me this evening is a wonderful panel of Mr. Albert Stevens, Ms. Trisan Grant, and Mrs. Felicia Fletcher Hamilton. And these persons are really experts in the field of philosophical orientation. So we're looking forward to a wonderful program this evening. And so we will also want to thank our sponsor, Digicel, Jamaica's bigger, better network. And so we'll definitely have a wonderful presentation. And we're going to break now for a message from our sponsors. And when we get back, we'll continue our discussion on philosophical orientation, specifically constructivism. All right?
It's so fresh, this is what freedom feels like.
All right, so welcome back to our program. So just like I said before, I'm joined by a wonderful panel, and we're going to be talking about philosophical orientations, specifically constructivism. And the first speaker we're going to have this evening is Dr. Trisan Grant. She'll basically be speaking about constructivism and basically providing an analysis as to that methodology and everything related to philosophical orientation. But for those viewers who are not too familiar with the details of the terms, you might be asking, what exactly is constructivism? And put it simply, constructivism is, I would say, a theory based on observation and scientific study. It's also about how people learn. That's the concept behind it. And it says that people construct their own understanding and knowledge of the world through experiencing things and reflecting on their experiences, hence the name constructivism. So basically, learners use their previous knowledge as a foundation and build on it with new things. So in essence, every individual experiences make their learning actually unique to them. So this is a concept we're going to talk about this evening. And so Trisan will be coming up next. She's basically going to be providing an analysis of constructivism, after which we'll hear some more from our wonderful panelists. All right, Trisan, take it away.
So thank you for that wonderful introduction. And it's a pleasure to be being on this radio station. And as he said, I'll be talking about constructivism, and I'll be explaining some principles governing constructivism that was proposed by McLeod 2019. So the first principle that he mentioned was that knowledge is actually constructed, and it's not passively absorbed. So the main principle behind constructivism is that it involves the building of learning through the learner's ability to build new knowledge upon the foundation of previous knowledge. So the prior knowledge influences what new or modified knowledge a person will construct from the new learning experiences. Phillips, 1995. The second principle was that learning is an active process. So learning is described as an active process rather than a passive process. So the passive process would actually entail the learner being viewed as an empty barrel to be filled by the teacher with knowledge. On the other hand, in constructivism, the learner is actually playing an active role in the construction of their own knowledge by being engaged in experiments or real-life problem solving. So although information can be passively received by the learner, it is different with understanding, since understanding involves making meaning connections between the new knowledge, the prior knowledge, and the process involved in learning. The third principle was that all knowledge is socially constructed. So learning is deemed a social activity. So learning takes place when learners participate in activities together and socialize with one another rather than being an intellectual concept. So Vygotsky, 1978, believed that community plays an integral role in the process of making meaning. So for Vygotsky, the environment is in which as children grows will actually influence how the children thinks and what they actually think about. He also stated that cognitive development stems from social interactions, from guided learning within the zone of proximal development as children and their partners co-construct knowledge. The fourth principle is that all knowledge is personal. So each individual learner features a unique point of view, supported existing knowledge and values. So each student will individually interpret the same lesson or activity differently. So the learner will learn a knowledge and internalize it in a way where it is unique only to that individual. So even if a teacher is teaching a concept, each individual will take that concept differently because they're unique individuals, and so the knowledge that they're actually gaining will be personal. And the fifth principle is that learning exists within the mind. So constructivism suggests that knowledge can only exist within the human mind. So new experiences cause learners to self-introspect and construct their own interpretation of reality. So even if a teacher is convincing some students that a ball is actually red, if that student believes that the ball is green, whatever information he stores in that mind is actually what is being learned at that time. So it's not what information is given, but is how we store, or what information is stored will determine the knowledge that we have gained. And that's basically it.
All right, thank you so much, Tristan. That was a wonderful presentation. And by your presentation, we actually have a better understanding as to what constructivism is. But learning about constructivism, as teachers or persons who are in the training field, what exactly does it have to do with us? So joining me next is Dr. Felicia Fletcher Hamilton. She'll be talking about the application of constructivism to education. Dr. Hamilton?
I'm here. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
So, just to point out that renowned philosopher Jean Piaget was actually a constructivist philosopher. Now, according to Gray, in a constructivist classroom, teachers create situations in which students will question their own ideas and each other's assumptions. This constructivism approach to education is student-centered rather than teacher-centered, as the learners are actively involved in the process of meaningful knowledge construction.
Okay,
No,
so it's all about the teacher, it's about involving the students, right?
it's about it, right?
That's great.
Now, how does the constructivism approach affect a teacher? Now, as an educator, when you use the constructivist approach, it helps you to have the student better understand previous knowledge, so knowledge that they have already attained.
Great.
It also helps the teachers understanding that each student has a unique background. So they will come to the classroom with their own understanding, their own knowledge based on their socialization.
Okay,
It
so
also
that's a nice
impacts.
slate. You're building on what is already there.
Right. So you are building on what the student already knows. It also impacts the student's ability to learn. So in creating such lessons, you have to build with those expectations in mind so that the experience for each student is unique to their understanding.
Okay, great.
It also helps the teacher to construct knowledge rather than to have the students just reproduce a series of facts. So it helps them to actually figure out what is going on so that they will be thinking critically. And now we're moving into how does this impact the student? Because the student is being taught in a spiral, meaning that you build on their past knowledge
Right.
to have them gain present knowledge so that they will have that to learn on, to build on in the future. So they are constantly revisiting what it is that they have learned before and to build on it. All right. Now, as I said, this helps them to think critically because they will be able to sift through the information by creating hypothesis, and by questioning and by investigating. It will play on their imagination. It also helps them to invent and discover new information, which students always love because it gives them a hands-on approach.
It's
All
not
right?
a big thing, so you're required to actually provide an input.
Very good observation. That gets me to my next point. It creates a democratic environment for the learners. So their input, their thoughts, and their feelings are actually they're valued in such a classroom, and they are free to express themselves. So because of this, the students are free to express their thoughts and ideas. And when they come up with these thoughts and ideas, it is then for the teacher to lead them into building on the knowledge to see if it is that their thoughts and ideas are actually correct or what it is that they need to adjust within their learning setting. Now, my final point on the impact on the learner is that it helps the learner to reflect and make associations with their prior knowledge so that they can reach a new understanding. So instead of just telling the student that this is the fact, you help the student to sift through their understanding of what they already know so that they can build upon it.
Great. That sounds absolutely wonderful because I know traditionally when you go to a classroom, you're just receiving what the teacher has planned and you just take it. So there's no two-way communication and discussion. So that's a wonderful thing. All right. Thank you so much,
Right.
Dr. Hamilton. And I'm sure that a lot of teachers listening will try to at least embrace this methodology of constructivism. All right, great. So we had Dr. Tristan Grant before, and now we just heard from Dr. Hamilton. And to finish off our nice discussion, we'll have Dr. Albert Stevens. He'll basically talk about the strengths and weaknesses because in everything you have the good and the bad. So Dr. Stevens, just provide us with some feedback as it relates to
Yes, good evening, viewers and my esteemed panelists and host, Mr. Davis.
Thank you.
So I will be looking at a few advantages of the constructivism idea. So in a constructivism classroom, it creates an active, engaging environment for children. So instead of being passive listeners, students through discussion and collaboration can engage in the active thinking rather than just rote memorization. So point number 2 in terms of advantages of the constructivism classroom is that students are learning how to learn. So students in a constructivist classroom work out their own solutions to the problems presented to them.
And that's amazing, because sometimes your point of view as to resolving an issue can be different from somebody else's, and might be more effective. So that's a good point.
Right, very good, sir. And so, for example, let's say in an undergraduate level physics class, an area such as, say, solar energy, students might be given the task to set up a solar panel to power a refrigerator. So in a constructivism way, students may discover through discussion and collaboration how to increase the efficiency of the panels by adjusting the panels to maximize the contact time with the sun.
Okay.
Furthermore, students may also realize that, hey, you know what, I have extra power, so maybe we can use that extra power to power the ceiling fan. So hence, the constructivist educated students are prepared to navigate in the real world where they must collaborate with others, negotiate their views, present ideas in ways that inspire others to accept them.
Great.
Yeah, man. So for me, it's a wonderful avenue to create things, you know. So, for example, what I find most in third world countries or developing states is that we are just users of technologies. We use a lot of apps. We use a lot of software, but we're not creating. We're not inventing. You know,
Innovation.
We don't have the Facebook people. You know, we don't have anybody inventing anything. We just keep on consuming and using, and we need classrooms like this to develop the next generation of inventors, engineers, and scientists.
Right.
So, some disadvantages is though of constructivism is that, you know, the constructivist classroom calls for the teacher to discard the standardized curriculum.
Okay.
Yeah, so in favor of a more personalized course of study base on what the students already know. And this could be a problem, because this could lead to some students to fall behind of others, you know, and you find that the constructive classroom lacks structure. All right, so that's a big disadvantage. Another disadvantage is that in the constructivism classroom, it places more value on students evaluating their own progress.
Okay.
So basically, you know, it is actually removing standardized tests and assessments in the traditional sense. So some students may be falling behind and the teacher don't know. Okay. You know, like in a regular school system, we use standardized tests.
Right.
You know, to determine the performance of students, so we know that he or she is falling. But in the constructivist classroom, it doesn't work like that. So that's a big disadvantage, Mr. Davis.
Okay.
All right. Lastly,
it's time consuming and expensive too, right?
Yeah, it is. It's time consuming and it's also expensive for some of the projects. Lastly, students may be confused and frustrated. You know why?
Why is that?
The constructivist learning theory operates based on the fact that students build knowledge based upon their prior knowledge.
Oh.
But guess what, Mr. Davis?
Right.
Some students cannot link their previous knowledge to the present knowledge to assimilate, to create, and to invent. So, you know, and the students who cannot do that, they become confused and frustrated. For example, you know, when as a teacher, as a math teacher, when you teach a concept in grade 9, we are expecting students to have those concepts to carry them to grade 10.
Right.
But sometimes I find myself teaching grade 7 maths to grade 10 students because they said they don't remember, they can't make the connection. So, and in that sense, students may become confused and frustrated. So those are a few disadvantages. I guess it could be an even split. I don't know. Where do you think, Mr. Davis?
Well, I think, listening to Felicia and Tristan, the concept itself is pretty sound, but I honestly believe that the disadvantages are not so dominant and overwhelming that anyone should really discount that methodology. It's something that can be embraced. And just like Felicia said, it's a matter of building on the spiral concept, taking information from the past, adding it to the future so that you can excel to the present, so you can excel to the future. So that's, I believe, something that we can all embrace. And it's a topic that we definitely need to have another show to elaborate on and expound on. But I believe tonight we have had a wonderful presentation. I want to personally thank Dr. Felicia Fletcher-Hamilton, Dr. Tristan Grant, and Dr. Albert Stevens, who have provided some valuable information as it relates to constructivism, and most importantly, how we can use this concept to better educate and inform our students and to basically prepare them for the future. All right, so we want to thank all the listeners. We want to thank our sponsor, Digicel, and we also want to thank you for sparing some time to listen to our presentation, and we pray that you'll apply it to what you're doing. And so we look forward to having another wonderful topic next week, same place, same time. Thank you so much and have a wonderful evening. All right, so back to our regular scheduled program with DJ Steve, and he'll take us out for tonight.